together, everything together, and you know how to, because I'm actually a manager in this country doing the same here. I've worked across the border with all vulnerable people, so I know and I have the skill and I know, you know, what exactly it takes.
I mean, another route you may want to go down is you tend to find with a lot of philanthropists, they got this route. They start off as maybe employed, then maybe go commission only. They then generally go to some sort of self-employed role, business owner, investor, philanthropist. So that's like a route a lot of people take when they're actually growing in business. And you may find you want to align yourself with people who have who've made it in business, who have you know, feel your need for Africa, you know, so maybe successful business people who want to invest in those ventures, and you'll find that those philanthropists that align with what you want to do will actually back and will fund it. Case in point, Bill Gates, the Bill Gates Foundation, he's gone through those routes, and now he can spend his time investing in causes that he wants to do. And you may find within, you know, your church, or if you seek for it, you'll find people that have money who are looking for somewhere to invest, and they may not have the time to invest in it. And how you get to that market, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm sure those people would very much, you know, would want to invest in what you do. So that's something you want to look into.
Right. So how do I link up with such people?
Okay, good question.
Can we, if you meet them in the break time, then you can take that further. We've got time for just one more.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I've been doing my business for 10 years, like I said, and there are some people here who want to start their business. As businessmen and women, how would you advise people? Because I've made mistakes, and I've heard this young man here talk about the mistakes he made, and I've learned from my mistake. But for people who are young and they want to start their business new, how would you advise them to start well?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people have ideas, but they don't know where to start. So that's why I said they need to get help. If you get help from someone who's more experienced, they've been through what, you know, maybe the other person hasn't been through, they can tell them how to cross the first hurdle. Because once the first hurdle is crossed, it gets, well, I won't say easier, but at least it makes the other person stronger, that they can do it, they can achieve, you know, their dream, or they can make their business. Also, another thing, I think Ron will touch on it later on, visualizing, you know, things, visualizing what your business is, what you want to achieve, that can help make your dream a reality as well. So asking for help is a key. Ideas are not good hair. They need to be implemented and tweaked around to make it workable. So I'll only say, ask for help. Ask people, don't shy. As Anthony said, there's no question is a silly question unless it's not asked. So always ask, because you don't know how many doors the other person can open for you if you don't ask. That's all I can advise.
I think something very important is to always have a mentor, and make sure the mentor has been in business. Not, you know, there are so many mentors on the web. There are so many coaches out there, but have they run a successful business? Have they made mistakes? So something I discovered is there is a very rich pool of potential mentors that you can find through different sources. And I think if you ask some of us, maybe after the meeting, we can always share with you. And I know a lady called Tony Daniel. She runs a group which for Afro-Caribbean people will sort of be like, ask you questions about your business idea, make sure you write a business plan, talk you through what it's like running a business, and she will also connect you to a mentor who's run a business before, failed, and now successful. So it's probably going to help.
Thank you very much for your questions. If you have any more questions for any of the panel, then meet them in the break, and do get their business cards, do contact them, do follow up, and make sure the information that they've passed to you today, you put it into action. Give them a round of applause again. Thanks very much. Okay. Now, I get to introduce somebody fantastic onto the stage. One of the things that Dalton said is to have a mentor. And throughout my life, I've had numerous mentors. Some of you who have heard me speak before will hear me speak of my old mentors, Tom and Vicky, who took me a long way. The gentleman I'm going to introduce to you now, I met him a number of years ago, and I did what I tell people now not to do. I went to a business startup event because I wanted to start a business. I met a gentleman, he stood in front of me, and he began to give me advice. And while he gave me the advice, the small voice inside of my head began to give me advice. The problem was, there was experience standing in front of me, but the small voice inside of my head that was giving me advice was going on all the experience that I had had before, which was failure, 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 failure. And when he was speaking to me, roughly translated, I stood there and I did this, and I nodded to everything he said, but inside I was saying, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not coming to your workshop. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to buy that book. And the most embarrassing thing is, last year, I went to an event, and there was this gentleman standing on the stage, and I was listening to what he said. And you know, the painful part of it is some of the things that he said on the stage, I had heard that many years before. And I said to myself, why? Why didn't you just listen? Why didn't you just take the advice that you are listening to now? Well, God is good, because he gave me a second chance. He gave me an opportunity, and I met this gentleman and I spoke to him. And you know the thing about asking? I sent an email because I was a coward to ask him in face-to-face. I was a coward to phone him. So I sent an email, and he sent me back an email, and it was amazing at how easy it was for somebody to give me help because I asked. So it's my great privilege to invite a gentleman up to the stage. He's written over 16 books. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a fantastic individual. He knows so much about business. He's going to tell you how to program your mind. He has a book that's on sale today. I'm not going to say anything else. You need to buy it. Look on Amazon. Look how many stars are on there. I want to introduce to the stage my mentor, my good friend, Mr. Ron G. Holland.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to first thank you for having me here and the warm welcome. Over the years, I don't know how many millionaires I've helped create, but it's a lot. And I've been a published author now for 32 years. And I thought today, if I can share with you just a few of the ideas that have helped me, but more importantly, helped other people accomplish their goals. And we've talked a lot about today, I've been listening very, very carefully, about what you think about is what you get. And we've heard it from a number of different speakers. What you think about is what you get. And I've spent 30 years of my life as an entrepreneur, but as an author as well, writing about the subject of thinking and non-thinking, meditation, visualization. How does all this work? And I want to share a little story with you about how I got my first Rolls Royce. And it's a funny little story, but it might help you accomplish some of the things that you're trying to accomplish in your lives. As a young man in South London, I used to drive a beaten-up Ford Escort. And it really was the original Dagenham dustbin. This thing was shot. And as I'm driving it around, I'm thinking to myself, I don't like this car. I wanted a Rolls Royce. And I thought, I've got to have a Rolls Royce. And like everybody in the room here today, you've heard of affirmations and visualizations. I heard of affirmations. And I thought, I'm going to convert this little old tatty Ford Escort into a Rolls Royce. And as I used to drive it around, I used to hold the steering wheel and I used to pound the steering wheel non-stop, all the time. I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce, like a nutter. I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce, driving it around. And I remember, as though it was yesterday, it was a long time ago, but I was at the top of Sutton High Street, I was hurtling down the hill, I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce, putting the program in my brain, right, at a cellular level. I got to the bottom of the hill and the traffic, all the traffic had stopped, and I nearly went up the guy in front of me, right? I nearly smashed into him. And it was a hot summer's day, and the windows were rolled down of my tatty little Ford Escort. The windows were rolled down, and the car was in front of me, and I nearly hit him. And I had the presence of mind, I'm still hitting the steering wheel, I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce. I'd stopped, and I had the presence of mind to look out the window, and I'd come up next to a bus stop full of people, and they were all peering in, looking at me, and I'm going, I own a Rolls Royce. And I looked at them, I thought, God, this has got to stop. I've got to do something different. And it made me even more determined to get the Rolls Royce. I had to have that Rolls Royce. But I had this little thought, what I'm doing is this affirmation, I'm just programming my left brain. What am I doing about my right brain, the visualizations? So I thought I'm going to do something different. So started driving the little Ford Escort around, but this time trying to program my right brain. And I thought, what do people with Rolls Royces do? And I looked around, and they're big, bloated up businessmen, and they're pompous, and they drive around like that. That's how they drive around. And I thought, I'm going to drive around like that in my little Ford Escorts everywhere through London. Right? That was, I put it in the program in. I've got to have the Rolls Royce. So if there was a gap that wasn't 20 foot long to put my car in, I'd just drive straight past it. I thought, you never get a Rolls Royce in there, and then I'd find a big gap. And then I thought I could reverse my Rolls Royce into there, and I'd reverse it in. Suddenly I've parked up my Rolls Royce, and I'd look at it, I'd check it out for envy lines, make sure nobody scratched it. I'm still looking at the Ford Escort, but I'm putting the program in over and over again. At a cellular level. Bang, 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 bang. Over and over again. Where I used to live was Dorking in Surrey. And I had 2 gate posts. And I looked at them and I thought, when I swing the Rolls Royce around in there, I'm going to clip one of them. So I dug it up, dug another hole, and I reset it, put the concrete in. Now that's wide enough for a Rolls Royce. So I thought, well, this is fantastic. We get the Rolls Royce in there. On the Saturday morning, I'd polish up my Ford Escort as though it was a roller. That's my Rolls Royce. My next door neighbour thought I was mad. He could see I was up to something. And then on the Rolls Royce radiator grille, there's a Spirit of Ecstasy. It's a woman with wings. And I polished that up in my imagination, polished it up. Next door neighbour looking over there. I've got to get this Rolls Royce. Now, what I'm trying to impress here is whatever goal you've got, whatever you impregnate in here, whatever you think about, really impregnate here, you start getting ideas, hunches, eurekas on how to accomplish that goal. So sure enough, after about 3 weeks, I got this little eureka in my head, and it was a little still voice that said, you want a Rolls Royce? Phone your PR guy. Just tell him you want a Rolls Royce. So I phoned him up and said, Gwyn, I've got to have a roller. And he said, do you know what? He says, you're not going to believe this. He says, I've got a Rolls Royce. And he said, it's up for sale. And the guy who was going to buy it from me has dropped me in it and let me down. He says, the amazing thing is I've lined up a finance package for him, 100% financing. He said, if you come over, put your name on it, we'll get you cleared through the finance house. You can drive away the Rolls Royce with no deposit. And to all intents and purposes, that's the end of the story. But with me, you'll understand there's always a twist. And I'm going to share the twist with you because it's quite funny. So, got my yellow Rolls Royce, TV aerial on the back. I'm as proud as punch. Now I'm driving around a real Rolls Royce. Absolutely fantastic. And as a young man, I dated ladies and I did business deals and in my Rolls Royce, and it was fantastic. And one day there was a print company that I wanted to buy, but I couldn't get the roller down to the end of the road where the print company was. So I thought, no problem. I'll park up the Rolls Royce, walked down to where the print company was, walked through the door, and you know what it's like in life, sometimes you just click with people. I went in, I said, I'm interested in buying the print company, and we just clicked. And it was a magical meeting, and he said, look, he said, Why don't we go out and have a bit of lunch and discuss the deal